When President Obama leaves office in a couple of years, it will mean that the United States has been 24 years without a business-oriented president. The last guy was Bush Sr., who took his family from Kennebunkport down to Texas to enter the oil business. He was subsequently very successful. What we need in this country is a president with a business, preferably manufacturing background, who can bring jobs back into this country. Otherwise, for the next number of years until this happens, we're going to get presidents in the office who just consistently say, as all politicians do, we need jobs. And they mean it, but they don't know how to do it. There's a mechanism to bring jobs back, and you have to understand it as a businessman. Otherwise, you have no chance of doing it. And that's proof of the pudding. Bill Clinton didn't bring one job back into this country. Whether you like him as a president or not, that fact remains. And what presidents do is claim that jobs gained are because of them. If we had no president for 6 years, we'd still make millions of jobs. The United States is getting bigger. People are moving into the country. People take jobs. They take jobs chiefly in service industries, in the professions. We're not getting manufacturing jobs back into this country. And many people will tell you they'll never come back. I don't believe them, and I'm hoping to convince you in the next few minutes that we could get these jobs back if we had someone at the top that could do it. Secondly, I think we ought to couple this new president, this businessman, manufacturing president, with a vice president that's very, very political, so that the vice president can go down into Congress and get the new bills passed that we need to pass to bring the jobs back. I think it's fairly simple. Now let's see if I'm able to lay it out. This new president should have the elegant, straightforward simplicity of a Warren Buffett, the tenacity of a Mike Dell, and the perspicacity and insights into business of a Jack Welch. I think the heads of both parties should be looking down their rosters to see who they can get to fill the bill. I also think that if we get a Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or the equivalent on the Republican side in, we are going to be wasting 8, 10 years down the road with more jobs leaving, more instability at home. There are 3 things this president has to understand. 1, the removal of property taxes is extremely important, and all those kinds of taxes that revolve around property taxes, equipment taxes, even gasoline taxes. And in order to do that, he's going to have to start with a state that doesn't have very many taxes. I think New Hampshire fills that bill. So the president would have to first pick states to use as laboratories. The second thing he has to do is to decide which jobs are easily made more competitive by bringing them back into this country. That's going to take an analysis by some guys that are smarter than I am. And then once they've picked the types of jobs to return to the United States, the third thing is we've got to make sure that they're competitive, which means not only do the people have to take these jobs for less than automobile type wages, but they have to be able to live comfortably on these wages, which means that you can't plop some of these jobs down in New York City, not with the humongous taxes and the costs in that city. The same job that you'd starve to death in New York City, you could live fairly comfortably on in, say, Oklahoma. So it's going to be a sort of a soup of all different pulls And this guy's got to be smart enough to figure out which ones are going to work. Once we have a template done by actually bringing jobs back and setting up manufacturing, making a profit and paying a decent wage, and figuring out how we're going to tax at the end, once this is underway, it'll carry its own momentum. At the same time, China's working on our behalf. Let me explain that. If China goes for efficiency, then they end up with a lot of unemployment. So the essence of the way they work is to load up a job with more bodies than we would use here in the United States. That, combined with the fact that the people in China want more money, means that China is slowly slipping toward a more expensive environment. Additionally, the yuan, which I have been just absolutely beside myself with anger about, is starting to rise in value, and China wants desperately to make it the universal currency. So if the yuan goes up in value, and the people in China want more money, and they keep loading up bodies so that they can use more people up, it works on our behalf. Let's recap. In order for this to work, there are going to be two victims. China, who's going to lose some jobs back to the United States, and politicians throughout the United States who are actually going to have to do some very meaningful work to figure out how to remove the tax burdens that they have so assiduously put on us all, so that these jobs can come back to the United States and the products can be taxed at the end, not in the process. That way, we will get products out of the pipeline at the minimal cost, thus ensuring continuous jobs and continuous incomes for people who are currently on welfare and for the others that are probably on their way to it, even though they don't know it. That's a big order. That's like winning World War III. And we need another George Washington, or at least an Eisenhower, to pull it off. Good luck. This is just an afterthought. To get one of these guys to submit himself to the normal presidential election campaign period is going to be asking more than one of these guys can handle. Somehow, we're going to have to cut him some slack, maybe introduce him to the respective conventions toward the end, and let them make a speech or two and move on. You're not going to get this kind of skill level humiliating themselves like a politician would. They just won't do it. They will not put themselves before people to be humiliated and excoriated for something that they've never done. So somehow, if you want to do this, it's going to have to be handled a lot differently.